Good afternoon, ladies and gents, and welcome to the second media communication course of the semester. Last week on this media part of the course, we were talking about media history, and so we had a look how the mediums kind of gained their current shape and form. And today we're going to be talking about media effects theories. I did bring a good 10 or 11 one, so I'm thinking whether we could get to the end of it without the video being way too long and not processable for you. We shall see, but today we're going to be having a theoretical class. I'm sorry if it's a little dry, but it's very, very exciting and very important. So let's just jump right into it, right? So, it is very much commonly believed that the media, and especially television, has got a very big impact on society. They say that the television, because that's an audiovisual kind of a stance, which is going to have mainly negative effects on the viewers. And they started taking a look at the mediums, especially television's, kind of effect on society in the 20th century. These media effects theories came along right then, right? So in the 20th century, practically, I do believe many of them can still be applied this, 21st century as well, onto new media and the internet. But it was first, or they were first developed for television media at the beginning. Okay, now there is a dominant view about the media, and that says that tabloid news make people dumb and encourage people to show political apathy. I'm not sure whether it's true or false, political apathy. I find that people are very politically motivated and opinionated without being very much minded about politics many times. Not just in Hungary, all over the world necessarily, but people say that the media is just like making you be not interested in important things and be interested in not important things majority of times. Reality shows offer deviant behavior patterns, that's for sure, and a high level of sexuality in them. Virtual violence raises physical violence. It's a thing and it's a phenomenon that people have been researching for the last decades. So how media violence or violence shown on the television will actually make you violent or not, and they have been researching it even further or even more kind of courageously and curiously in relation to video games, because there you are a first person shooter, or someone who is shooting someone or harassing someone, or doing something horrible, and not just watching it on TV but actually executing it yourself if you're playing video games. The research on it is not very unified, so we will be talking about it, and I'm curious about your opinion, how you think that the violence shown on television or done, you have to execute it on video games, affect your behavior in reality. I do believe personally, because the research is not very much unanimous, that if you're a normal person, if you are shooting after a good long day, and you're just going into a shooting game for an hour, if you're not deviant, it won't make you deviant anyway. But if you have got some mental issues, it will significantly kind of increase it, because you cannot kind of differentiate reality from fiction, which is not really good. It says pornography entails the deterioration of sexual morality. That's really, really sure. And pornography is the number one business, number one industry, the highest downloaded substance, everything in the United States as well as in the world, but we do have data from the States all the time. And the last but not least, reports of suicide make people suicidal. Happy days, isn't it? Yeah, that's what people believe. Now let's have a look at sorry, I'm messing up everything. Let's have a look at the other kind of media effect theories. Now, in the 1950s, television had become a threat towards the church, and it was kind of indicating that these kind of effect theories came along. Pope Pius, for example, he was saying that television has a vicious power that is even more traumatic than cinema, because it is able to create a toxic atmosphere of materialism, frivolity and hedonism within the walls of homes. So he said that it was even worse than anything else, because it's there every day with you. We do understand the kind of not political, but kind of the motivation behind it from the church, how it didn't kind of agree to the media. But all in all, that's what the church believed about the media, or of the media. According to these views, the media is influential and the public is defenseless. Many times they were kind of depicting a public that is just like being shot with the messages, and the public opinion will follow whatever the media says, which is not quite right nowadays. It was very much right when there was just one media channel, there was just something available for the public. Nowadays there is a wider kind of variety, and multiple voices can be heard, so it's different now. Okay, yeah, let's have a look. Let's have a look at the models, shall we? The number one model is going to be something. It's also a media effect theory as well as a communication model. And I think that you are kind of fed up with this, so I'm going to be really, really short and sweet, because the transmission model is something every single communication student learns approximately 500,000 times, yes, by the time they finish their BA studies, and then they restart it when they enter the masters. Horrible, I know. You know that the transmission model was developed by Shannon and Weaver. Many students of mine kind of say that it's done by Shannon Weaver, and that's two different people, right? You have to know that. And it was in 1949, and that's a mathematical theory of communication. These guys were two engineers working for the Bell Telephone Company, so they were kind of looking at how much interference the telephone line bears until the line actually starts breaking. So the first communicational model was actually a mathematical one, which is quite crazy, isn't it? So it is suggesting a sophisticated relationship between the media and its audience. And yeah, they named it the transmission model because there is like I did put in a picture, didn't I? Yeah. An information source, a transmitter, a channel, a receiver, and a destination. So many people don't understand why there are like two source ends. And it says that like the information source, this is the one who is producing the message. So this is practically a person. And then the transmitter is going to be the telephone for Shannon and Weaver. So it was just like the transmitter is the telephone line, which is receiving the message. The channel is the line itself. The receiver is the other telephone, the device, which is receiving the message. And then the destination is the human at the other end, right? So this is how it comes together. And there might be certain noise sources. And on top of that, there is something missing highly, as you can tell, which is going to be the feedback, right? Now, because they are engineers, they didn't need the feedback, because if the telephone line worked from one end to another, it necessarily worked to another one as well, so they didn't really put it in. But yeah, it's necessarily entailed, the feedback one. Noise sources, ladies and gents, that is very, very important, that the noise sources are going to be somewhat highlighted. There are three different types of noises, and I'm not sure if you have learned all these before, which is going to be a dysfunctional factor. And it says that any interference with the message traveling along the channel, it will be called a noise or a noise source. Now let's have a look. There are three levels. Number one level is going to be level A, mechanic or technical noise. Now this is practically a real noise, like the phone is breaking, or somebody's shouting outside and I cannot hear what you're saying. Or for example, these are literal noises. The neighbor is too loud and you cannot watch TV, right? So the message cannot get from A to B really well. Or something is wrong. You're sitting on the metro and for that reason the phone line is breaking. Okay, so it is something that is a literal, like almost tangible kind of a noise, right? B, level B is going to be semantic noise. Semantic noise is something that it concerns meaning. Okay, so like was the message understandable? Semantic problems can be non-clear messages or varying interpretations of messages. Of course, if you don't speak the language that I do, like I'm speaking in Japanese and you don't understand that, then I don't speak Japanese, but you know, whatever, I'm dreaming, then it's a semantic noise as well. But it can also occur that people do speak the same language, but they do have various interpretations of the same issue. For example, I'm saying cheating. Maybe cheating on someone for you is going to be going and kissing somebody else outside of the relationship, but maybe for some people it is already looking at somebody else outside of the relationship. Or freedom means something completely like different for a person who is living in a democracy like we do, or a person who is coming from oppression, right? So that is going to be like a semantic noise. And number 3, level C, is going to be the psychological noise. Psychological noise will concern the effectiveness of communication in terms of reception. So if you are psychologically not fine, you're preoccupied, busy, tired, worried, you hate the speaker, or you're in love with the speaker, the communicator, then it's just going to end up in a psychological factor that you cannot pay attention really well, and this will cause noise or noises in listening to the other speaker, okay? If you cannot stand the other person and you're thinking that like this person is getting on my nerves, then you will not be able to process the information you can hear. As simple as that. Okay, let's finish it here as for the first media effect theory, because we don't need any more of the transmission model. Let's move right into the magic bullet theory. The magic bullet theory, also called as the hypodermic theory or hypodermic needle theory, at its most basic, it says actually, or the theory says actually, that the media will transmit messages, ideas, information, beliefs, and so forth, and then are picked up by the audience and acted upon by them as we want it. Okay, so that the media is giving you a message and then you will act absolutely accordingly. Okay, so this message necessarily believes that the media is like a drug or like a bullet, really. I don't know why I put the needle in here. It would be way better with a bullet because it's called like magic bullet theory at the beginning. And so it necessarily says that the media hits you like a bullet. It will hit you with a message, and then you will straight away act according to that message. Okay, so it necessarily like says that the audience is absolutely passive. It's like it's not a thinking entity. It's not at all a normal human entity. It's just like an entity who can be like moved around like a puppet. Okay. This model was very much prevalent in the 1920s and 1930s, and it assumed a couple of things. That the effect is direct and measurable, because your audience will straight away act accordingly. I tell you to vote for this party and you will see it in the results that they did. The effect is immediate. The audiences passively accept the media messages, as I've mentioned, and audiences would exhibit predictable reactions in the end. Okay, that's very simple. Now, they did check it and they did try it out in 1938. I don't think it's a moral thing to do, or it was a moral thing to do, by the way, but there was a radio broadcast. It was called The War of the Worlds, which was a fictional news report, or it actually said a fictional news report into the radio live during the day that an alien invasion was coming to America. And so people who were listening to the radio, they started a panic attack, and then some people panicked and believed that the story was really true, and they started packing their luggage and they started leaving the States. So that's how it is. And they said that this shows that the media has got a very direct, like, big impact on the audiences who will start to act absolutely accordingly. So that's what they mentioned. They also had, or there are some more examples to this. There were Hungarian cases too, but I don't know if your countries did it. There was a Hungarian group of old pensioner, mainly ladies, who started like fundraising for Esmeralda. I'm not sure if you remember that series. It was about a blind girl, and they wanted to raise money for her eye surgery. But she was a soap opera character, and she was not blind in real life. So that was like a magic bullet theory kind of issue as well. Another one was Isaura, who was like a slave girl, and it was also a soap opera. Latin American, if I'm not mistaken. Esmeralda is definitely Latin American. Isaura, I'm not sure, but, well, I am sure. And so, in the end, they wanted to raise money again. It was in Hungary too, in order to free Isaura as well, to make her not a slave anymore. So they said that the media has got a very direct impact on many people, and they will be hit like a bullet with the media messages. I'm wondering what you think about this one now, and what you think, whether it's age dependent, gender dependent, maybe like knowledge dependent, or like how cultured the person is. I'm not sure, but definitely the media has got an approach like this too. Number 3, ladies and gents, is going to be the two-step flaw theory. And this theory was actually introduced by Paul Lazarsfeld in The People's Choice in 1944. So it's a political kind of an approach for sure. And his study focused on the process of decision-making during the presidential election campaign. And he was really curious, and he was kind of expecting to find empirical support for the direct influence of media messages on the voting intentions. So he wanted to see that the media will directly say to the people what to do, how to do that, and then they will actually do that, right? So the theory asserts that information from the media moves in 2 distinct stages. First, the individuals. There will be certain opinion leaders who pay close attention to the mass media. So this theory actually says that it's not the media having direct impact on you, but there is the media who will give it to like an opinion leader, and the opinion leader will kind of pass it on to you. Okay, and so they were saying that these opinion leaders, they can be anyone whom you pay attention to, a star, a politician, your mom, your teacher, your best friend, your anybody. Nowadays, we do believe that this one goes on as well. These opinion leaders, for example, YouTubers and like these Instagram, what you call them, like influencers and people like that, they will kind of pass their own interpretations onto people, and they will act accordingly, right? So it can be family members, friends, teachers, anybody. And so, didn't I insert a picture? Yes, I did. So this is how you need to interpret it. There is like the mass media, which is kind of pointing to opinion leaders who are sharing the message based on their own interpretations to other people. I think we do it with parents quite often, that like your mom interprets it some way, or your dad, and so you will kind of bring it on to you and towards yourself. I'm wondering who would be an opinion leader for you in your life, and whom you would kind of say that they had an impact on your political behavior or on your kind of lifestyle as well. They say that these Instagram influencers, you know, they started new trends like I'm not sure what is that very expensive one, the avocado on toast, and on top of that there is like this egg and whatever, and everybody was eating that for a while now. And veganism came about 2 years ago. Everybody was following that trend as well. So a lot of things have been going on this way, but this one was definitely, this was focusing on political behavior. I'm wondering what other trends you would actually say that the opinion leaders spread, and who the opinion leaders are in your life. That would be quite interesting to know. Number 4, ladies and gents, that's going to be the selective exposure theory, which was coming along in the 1950s by Joseph Clapper. And he explained the results of Lazarsfeld in his new theory that we're going to learn about now, selective exposure theory. And so he said that it's a theory of communication, and that individuals prefer arguments that actually support their pre-existing positions or views or kind of beliefs. And they will not support those of them that they didn't believe inherently or before. So people tend to select content from the media as well that confirms their own beliefs and avoid information that is going to be counter-arguing them. I think we still do that quite often. So if we don't have to, we will not check out all the news. We will just check out those portals that are supporting our political behavior and political kind of worldview, really. And it also shows that the media is not really like objective whatsoever. Even when news portals lie that they're very objective, there is no such a thing, because you choose that portal to read and not another one, and that's already a proof that it's not objective whatsoever. We do have a Hungarian portal that keeps on saying that is the objective news writing portal. It's not possible. There is no such a thing in the media. And so we do this because we don't want to be contradicted, right? So we do this that we don't read other types of news outside of our taste, political taste. Even when we do it, we just do it to see what the other side is lying about. And that's all. We don't like to be contradicted. We don't like, because it angers us and it's just not comfortable. And so the selective exposure theory says that we will select different media outlets that we will agree with, which will create a filter bubble. I'm not sure if you have heard of the filter bubble theory, but it is that, you're living in a bubble which is only saying those opinions that are available to you. Majority of times, it can be the online media as well, creating a filter bubble. For example, Facebook, which is like filtering the news according to very much of a liberal kind of point of view, or the traditional media, which is going to be filtering the news according to the government's propaganda. So that is going to be rather a right-wing one if you have a right-wing, or a left-wing if you have a left-wing party ruling. So necessarily we live in a filter bubble anyway, unless you are kind of consuming all the news in the world, which is not really a possibility or not really something that we do, Okay. Leon Festinger's cognitive dissonance theory also focuses on this one, because we don't like to be contradicted. I'm not sure if you have heard of this one, and I'm not sure if you have ever met this theory, but maybe you did, and I'm not sure how deep I should go into it, but we shall see. I will ask you about it first, and then if you haven't heard of it, I don't mean to be boring you with anything that you have already had. I'm sorry about that. If you haven't, then we will talk about it on Teams, for sure. Okay, cultivation theory is going to be number 5. This theory was created by George Gerbner in the 1970s, and I'm not sure if you knew it, and if you're Hungarian you might know it, but George Gerbner, a huge theorist, he is actually Hungarian. He went away from Hungary. He dissidentated. I think he's a Jewish Hungarian, so he went away to America, and his name is Gerbner György. So he's necessarily like a huge name in Hungary, because we do have him, and we do have a lot of Hungarians in America, of course, but still it's like a pride of ours. And so this theory states that the heavy exposure to media will cause individuals, the cultivation theory, to cultivate or to have illusory perceptions of reality. So if you watch the media, for example, if you watch the news, which is necessarily 99%, I don't know the data, I'm just saying something, 99% negative. So it's like it was exploded, it got beaten up, then corrupted, then raped, then killed, then a terror attack, then this and that and that. And in the end of the news, there is always like a cute baby panda born in the zoo, and then that's it, right? So if you watch these and you're exposed to media messages like these, then you will believe straight away that due to the media, that the world is a worse place than it actually is. It's quite bad anyways, right? But still, these constant messages will kind of create an illusion in you which is not necessarily right or not the truth. Okay, so it's very important that you note it. Okay, this theory most commonly applies to the analysis of television, because this medium is uniquely persuasive. That was an ugly pronunciation, wasn't it? Okay. Someone who is watching a great deal of television, they say, they will form the picture of reality that it's actually not corresponding to real life. Okay. Anything else? Nothing else. Enough. Cultivation theory. Okay, screen time, heavy users, whatever. Doesn't matter. Let's go to the agenda setting theory. And we are already at 24 minutes, is it? Okay, that's still quite bearable. I hope that you're not bored yet. Agenda setting theory. I'm sorry that it's way too theory-based, but I'm trying to get through it as normal as possible. Now, some years following up Gerbner's theory, the agenda setting concept came along, and it was created by Bernard Cohen. Now, I don't mean to be using spoilers, but if I were you, I would focus on names and times and these agenda setting and all the theories. All the theories for the exam as well, because it's definitely going to be a part of it. Sorry about the phone. So it softens the effects of the media, and this agenda-setting theory suggests that the mass media only determines the issues that concern the public rather than the public's views or beliefs. So it's a very optimistic kind of a theory, in my opinion. It says that the media does not say what to think, it only says what to think about. I'm not sure if there are any super positive people like in the group or outside of your circles that you know. And I don't mean to be kind of pushing your opinion to either side, but I believe that it's not true. I don't think that the media just wants to tell or offer you a topic to think about and not tell you what to think about it. I think it's too utopistic. I think it's just too optimistic, really. But still, this theory, the agenda-setting theory, issues that that practically these public discussions and debates and demands and actions, they're all kind of suggested by the media, but none of the content is suggested. It's just the topic. And so the media is determining what issues and stories the public should think about, but do not kind of determine what to think about it. And they do not kind of move the minds of the public. I think it is not really true. Now, the agenda-setting theory, ladies and gents, is highly tied to the framing theory. Okay? The framing theory, it was first put forth by Goffman, and it was under the title Frame Analysis. And the concept of framing is related to the agenda-setting tradition, but it actually expands the research by focusing on the essence of the issues and rather than the particular topic, really. So the framing theory is checking out or building on the agenda-setting theory a little bit, because the agenda-setting theory is telling you what to think about, and then the framing theory is kind of putting it to a certain light so that you think about it in a way that the media wants you to think about it. Okay, that's important. So the basis of the framing theory is that the media focuses the attention on certain events and kind of leaving some other things outside of it so that you will be thinking in a certain frame, really. Okay, that's a tautology, I'm sorry about that. I really do like this picture. I'm not sure if you have seen it a million times and it's super boring for you or it's novelty, but I think it's really cool. You can see that there is a guy chasing another guy with a knife or with like something sharp, and then on television the exact opposite is being shown because it just cuts the frame outside of it, and in the frame it looks like the other guy is kind of attacking the one behind the attacker in reality. So this is a very, very good photo, I think, or like image or something, because it shows the nature of the media, that if it wants to, it could always kind of show the exact opposite of what was going on. And that's quite dangerous, isn't it? It's also very important that message framing is something that the media does all the time. For example, there is positive framing and negative framing. If you donate money, this cute bunny will live happily ever after. This is a positive frame, okay? So this is something that, like, you know, you will pay attention to it, but it's not something that the media tends to do. The media will rather show negative framing. For example, if you don't donate money, this cute bunny will die, right? Because it's more urgent, it's more painful, it's more, like, I'm not sure, negativity has got such a power, doesn't it? So negative news will always be super exciting. Okay. So when framing, those expressions and pictures are being chosen for the recipient, which will bring forward the behavior and the intention and the attention as well. Oh, sorry. Yeah. There was another research they did regarding media framing, and that was that the wording of how they're wording a certain message or issue can greatly affect witness statements as well, or decisions of a jury or a judge, which is really important. So there was a test, and test subjects were asked to watch a collision of two cars, and there were two different wordings. In one case, they were asked that by what speed were the cars going when they collided, and in the other case, they were asked, like, by what speed were the cars going when they smashed into each other. Now you can see it in the wording as well, that when they collided, that's kind of like very objective and it's not really dramatized. But when they say that the two cars smashed into each other, that's rather strong. And so those people who were taking part in the second case, the test subjects were actually estimating 30 kilometers per hour is more of a speed than in the first one on average. And in case of the smashing, when they heard that like two cars smashed into each other, weeks later as well, when they were kind of asked what they witnessed, they remembered glass splinters as well at the scene of the accident. They were not even there. So they remembered more dramatic circumstances just because of saying smashed in front of instead of colliding, which I think is really, dangerous and really crazy. Another example, for example, or some other examples here, can be like the global climate change or the global warming, which is more strong, or the 9/11 terror as a crime or terror as war, the war on terror. It's like a very typical American phrase, the war on terror. Tax burden versus social contribution. Social contribution is quite normal, really, that like you have to be contributing to the state's functioning. But when you say that it's a tax burden, that's quite strong, isn't it? Public consumption, which is normal, or the taxpayers' valuable money, that's already kind of framed as well. And you can call something an accident or a disaster, which is really, really like very much framing the things as well. Uses and gratifications theory. I'm wondering how much we should still go on. Yeah, let's go on still, because I think it's still quite bearable. Uses and gratifications theory, ladies and gents. It is an approach to understand why and how people actively seek specific media in order to satisfy specific needs, right? So the uses and gratifications theory is an audience-centered theory. Finally, we are not focusing on the media. We are approaching it from the audience's point of view. And finally, we are not imagining the audience, to be a passive, absolute bunch of retards. Finally, we are approaching them as like normal, functionable societal creatures. We have to ask the questions like, what does the media do to people? And what do the people do to the media? And this is very relevant in the 21st century, because now we are forming the media, right? You can share things on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok, whatever, and it's going to be shared there. And you're forming the media as well. So the uses and gratifications theory will focus on what the audience is doing. And hence, they will be targeting you with messages and certain media kind of substances and programs and channels and something like that, because they will have a look. Maybe you are watching your favorite show like The Westworld or The Peaky Blinders or something, and then you're simultaneously, is this a word? Yeah, tweeting about it on Twitter or sharing things on Instagram or I'm not sure what, downloading certain things illegally or something, So many people use the internet to seek entertainment, to find information, to communicate, and each of these uses gratifications as a particular need, and these needs determine the media's function, and the media's functions will determine the people's needs as well, right? So it's like looking at the people's choices as well. I do know some shows, for example, there was a super good show. It was like a series on HBO, which was Once Upon a Time. I'm not sure if you watched it. It was all about the Disney movies. They made it with real actors. And so in the end, you could send messages to the directors, and they actually altered the movies that they wanted to do because the audience was not satisfied with the choices and with whom they killed off and how they kind of planned the show. And I know that How I Met Your Mother, it had an ending that nobody liked. So they kind of offered it an alternative ending as well. And I'm not sure if you can say any more series or any more shows where you could reach out as an average person on Twitter or on somewhere to, we don't even really use Twitter in Hungary, by the way, but somewhere on Instagram, somewhere, to the directors, and they would change the story according to these audience voices. I'm very curious if you can say any more examples. And that's also a media effects theory, the uses and gratifications theory. Okay. Number 9, ladies and gents. Number 9 is going to be the spiral of silence theory. This was originated by a German political scientist and the only lady we can welcome in the group, 1974, Elisabeth Noel Neumann. And the spiral of silence theory is actually a term meant to refer to the tendency of people to remain silent when they feel that their opinions or views are in opposition with the majority's views or on the subject. So it means that you go into a community and you feel like certain attitudes, point of views, ideas, any views, political views, anything, is kind of a minority opinion that you have, or maybe you're the only one, you will kind of stick to staying silent, right? The media is super good at this. So the media is kind of forcing it all on you, what you have to think about critical matters. And then if you don't feel that way, you will be that like, I'm not going to share it online because I will have a bunch of negative comments. Or I'm not going to come out with my opinion because I might be judged and it seems like my opinion is not welcome, or it's not an opinion that is just like going to be, handled well by the audience, and I don't want to be kind of, hated out of the group, really. First of all, they have got a lot of fears. They fear isolation from the group, and for that reason, maybe they don't dare to share their opinions. Or in certain cases, they might fear extreme isolation, for example, losing their job because of an opinion, or losing their status, or losing something. So they will not be able to share an opinion. The minority opinions are silenced, and this will kind of give the illusion to the majority opinion that it's an absolute, unanimous, hegemonic point of view, okay? Which is not good. So if you've got a minority opinion, I think you're entitled to say it, because it will give a false representation of the majority opinion that it's just the only opinion in existence, which is not good, So if you stay in silence, then it will create a self-propagating loop in which minority voices are reduced to the minimum or completely cancelled out, and the perceived popular opinion will have no competition whatsoever. They don't even have to think about reasoning or saying anything because they're just not even challenged, which is not good, in my opinion. So that's no good. According to the spiral of silence theory, if the media propagates a particular opinion, then this opinion will effectively silence all opposing point of views, and will create an illusion of consensus, which is just an illusion, but it's still there. And this theory actually relates especially to public polling and the use of the media. This is how it is, that it starts off big and then you're going to be completely silenced in the end with your opposing point of view, which is not good. And then the last one, ladies and gents, is going to be the encoding and decoding messages. And this model was first developed by Stuart Hall in 1973. And Hall, this is the last one I promise you, Hall offered a theoretical approach of how the media messages are actually produced, disseminated, and interpreted. And this means that, once again, just as at the very beginning at number 1, transmission model theory, that is there is a sender and a receiver, and then the message is encoded and decoded. Okay, so it says that the media is sending you messages, but Hall actually believed that the audience will kind of decode the message according to their own ideas and views. And the messages are decoded by the receivers according to their own ideals and views, and so the media has to kind of word those messages so that the public will decode them according to the media's intentions and the media's will, right? So this model claims that a TV and any other media audiences are presented with messages that are kind of interpreted by them in different ways, depending on the individual's cultural background, very importantly, economic standing, personal experiences, I think age, I think gender, I think whether it's an urban or a rural kind of place, and what else do you think has got an impact on the interpretation of media messages? We will speak about it on Teams as well. Okay, now Hall says that there are 3 different positions of the audiences or the receivers: the dominant or hegemonic positions, which are going to be taking the information really, really like welcome. They will say that like, I like it what the media says to me, and I'm going to be interpreting it the same way as they wanted it, and I quite like it and accept it without any hesitation or questions. The negotiated position, which is going to be that I'm taking this message, but with certain kind of, well, with a pinch of salt, really. So I'm negotiating it a little bit in myself or with others. So I do take some parts of it, but I don't fully agree with it. And the last one is the oppositional position. I hear something from the media and I say, oh, this is rubbish. I'm not gonna even deal with it. This is not cool. This is not something I can support or I want to support. I think it's very much enough for us. 40 minutes, it's kind of bearable. I hope that you all did survive, and we will talk about all of them in detail on Teams. And thank you so much for your attention, and see you very soon, just now on Teams. Thank you. Bye.